Hello guys and welcome back. If this is your first time, I hope you will stay. Espero que te quedes. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about what it was like for me the first time I did my GCSE Spanish and how I failed. So yes, I'm ashamed to say it, but the first time I did my GCSE exams, I actually got an E. How can you get an E, you ask? Well, if you want to get an E or you want to fail, just do exactly what I did, because it is just impossible to get an E, but I managed it. So first of all, I think I overestimated my abilities in Spanish, because obviously it was one of those subjects that I loved throughout school. From the first day of school, I loved Spanish. But I don't think I was mature enough to think about the future and to think about how final the exams were and what it meant for my future. I was just quite immature in that sense. So I was just living day by day, and I knew the exams were coming up, but I didn't revise at all. I just thought, oh, I've got this. Spanish is quite easy. And perhaps I'm going to find the listening hard, I thought. So I'll probably listen to a few Spanish CDs and whatever, I'll be okay. So that's sort of the attitude that I had. The second point is that I had multiple different notebooks for Spanish. I remember we had pink book and a yellow book for Spanish, one for vocab and one for classwork. And I ended up with so many different books because I kept on saying to my teacher, every time I'd misplaced a book or I'd forgotten to bring it to class, I'd say to my teacher, oh, my book is full. And I don't know how she didn't notice that I'd done that a lot of times before, because normally you'd ask your students to show you the book as proof to whether or not they've just lost it, or, you know, they're just pulling your leg. I ended up with loads of books throughout the year, my final year, with just information scattered everywhere, basically. So I didn't have all my vocab and all the topics in one place, and I probably lost some of the books. So it was just really, really patchy. I didn't organize myself topic to topic, so then I would have a clear understanding of what I needed to study to pass the exam. So that was the second point. I dedicated no special time to Spanish after school, okay? I remember being in a class, and it wasn't top set at all, which was not good for me, where most of the kids were quite lazy, if I'm going to be honest, but they were my friends. And so we messed about quite a bit. But you need to understand this. Sometimes people will say to you, oh, I don't study, and I'm not going to study. But you don't know what they're doing at home. They might be saying, yeah, I'm not studying and I don't care. But then afterwards, they will leave you and they will go home and they will study. That I learned a lot later on. Okay, just because your friends are saying they're not studying, it doesn't mean they're not studying at home. It just means that they're trying to be cool, and they're saying that because they're trying to play it off like they don't care, when in reality, there's something else going on. So don't follow what your friends do or say, because it might not always be quite that accurate. Okay, right. So after I got my results, saw the big fat E there looking at me, I cried, obviously. I cried. I remember my dad saying, no, it's okay, it's fine. You can do better next time. And I was thinking, there is no next time. This is it. And it was just horrible. But then I did decide to resit. In the college this time, I resat, and I went from an E to an A star. How is that possible? Organizing yourself and actually making time for the subject. That's how I did it. I remember borrowing lots of past listening exams and going into the lab and actually listening to things every break time, lunchtime, and so on. So just being adamant that, I'm going to do this. This is what I have to do. This is the amount of time I need to dedicate to Spanish each day. Because I only had a year to turn my grade around and to resit. And so that's what I did. I just organized myself, topic to topic, lots of listening, writing exercises, and I got my teacher to check them. And I'm sure if you do this, no teacher is going to say to you, no, I have no time to check your work. It just wouldn't happen, and even if it's not a teacher, find somebody else who, maybe a friend who can help you out to practice the speaking and such on with you. Right. So after this rude awakening, that, I'm not going to get anywhere if I don't get good grades, I decided that I did, in fact, want to do exactly what my sister did. My sister at this point was at university. And I had said to her that I wanted to go into acting. I wanted to do theatre and I wanted to just be in the arts. And I remember she said to me, Keish, you need a plan B. Because, so many people are in London who want to be actors and maybe 2% of them get anywhere. And I remember I wasn't really upset that she said that because I sort of thought, well, I suppose you're right. And so that's where the idea came from, about doing a sandwich course with Spanish as well, or with a couple of languages and theatre, which is later what I did. Anyways, so the whole point of the failing the Spanish was the fact that I think that I was just not mature enough and I wasn't ready. So you can hear your teacher say to you 100 times, this is what you need to do, you need to do this and you need to do that to get this spot, to get these marks. But if you, personally, if you're not ready and you're not mature enough to take that on and know that that's what you have to do to reach to where you need to get to, nothing's going to work because it will go in one ear and straight through the other. Fact. That's what will happen. Okay? So the other big thing that happened after this was that I had a clear idea in my head that I did want to go to university because there was absolutely nothing for me in Wiltshire. And the only place that you would end up working with no education was in a factory that they had, a pie factory that they had, where lots of people work. Most of the population worked there if you didn't really have a qualification in anything. So a few of my friends and we decided to take a job there in the summer to save up some money, both at the university and just to have a good summer, really. So I started in this factory, this pie factory, and oh my God, that's been one of the biggest life lessons. I knew from that moment that I didn't want to end up here. I was working with people who were like 30, 40, 50 years old, who had been there for 20 odd years, and they hated the job just as much as we did. We'd only been doing it for a couple of months, but we hated it. They hated it even more, but yet there they were in a dead-end job that they hated. It was freezing. It was horrible. And this just reminded me of PE. Just a never-ending class of PE in winter in your PE kit where you're frozen stiff like this in the corner, but you still had to do it. You still had to be there. And I just remember thinking of that. This is like PE. This is horrible, except it was just horrible because you'd come out feeling horrible. You'd still be cold when you came out because, this is making pie and the environment was just freezing. I remember not being able to move my fingers because they were so cold. And one day I said to myself, I don't want to end up doing this the rest of my life. And this is exactly what's going to end up. This is where I'm going to end up if I don't get myself in gear and get studying. And so that's what I did. That was such a great learning experience, working in that factory and realizing that I didn't want to end up here. I wanted to make something of myself. And so I got my elbows down and I just started studying. And especially in Spanish, I got studying and I got the grade that I wanted to get into university. And it started from there, really. So one of the biggest lessons I've learned from my GCSE exam is that if you don't put the work in, you're not going to see any results. And at the end of the day, you're doing it for yourself. So you choose. Your mom, your dad, your teachers, no one can make you do something. And until you actually internalize it yourself and realize that this is what you want out of life, you know, there's no way to get to that goal. So it's maturity. And you don't realize and you don't learn until you get to that point where, you know, you're enlightened by something, or you go through something big and you realize that, well, I do need to do this. And you have to be doing it for yourself, okay? Knowingly that it's going to give you something positive in the future, and it is good for you, okay? And you want to do it. More than anything, if you don't want to do it, it's not going to turn out well. Okay, so that was it. I got from an E to an A star, just refocusing, cutting out bad habits, putting the time in, and setting a goal for myself. Okay, and just knowing that whatever happened, I needed to get a good education, really, and I needed to settle down. So that was it. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and if that is the case and you do want to see more videos from me, please do not forget to subscribe down below. Y hasta la próxima vez, chicos. Adiós. Y buena suerte, mucha suerte con los exámenes, porque ahora sé que vosotros tenéis los exámenes a la vuelta de la esquina, ¿ok? Just around the corner. Hasta pronto. Adiós.